Hi guys, I'm back with another video, and today I want to talk about something that I find really interesting. Villains. I love villains. I am the kind of person who in half the videos will say that she loves the good guys, and then in the other half I'll say I love the villains. So I guess I just love nicely written characters. But today, specifically, I want to talk about villains. How do you write villains that people secretly root for? Like, are you ever reading a book and you're just like kind of hoping that, oh, I wish the villain would win. You find yourself rooting for them even though you know they're objectively awful, but you're still rooting for them. What can you do to write villains like that? So if you're world building or if you're a writer, let's get into that. Oh, by the way, my new Soundgarden t-shirt. I absolutely love Soundgarden, so I'm really happy I found this t-shirt at an H&M. Anyway, so the first thing I want to talk about is giving them a solid motive. I think I've talked about some of these points in my old video about antagonists. These might be a little similar, but with more of an edge and some better examples. So a villain that is evil for simply the sake of being evil is boring, and that was one of the problems with Voldemort. Even Brandon Sanderson talks about it in one of his videos. That is one of the reasons he's not a huge fan of how Voldemort was depicted in the films. But if your villain has a good reason, for example, they want to protect their family or survive in a brutal world or prove something, suddenly we get it. We get them. We understand where they're coming from. Case in point, Cardan, my beloved, from The Cruel Prince. We understand him. Even if we don't excuse him, we understand where he's coming from, and we find ourselves secretly rooting for him. We understand that he's coming from a place of trauma and insecurity. Do not underestimate the importance of charm. Now, if your villain is really powerful and has a lot of strength, great, but readers don't fall for brute strength unless they're gym bros, and that's a different story, but generally they don't. What readers fall for is charisma. If your villain has a sense of humor, what their confidence is like. Bonus if you add some banter with the protagonist. If your villain can make the readers laugh and swoon, you've got yourself a winner. I'm gonna give an example. If you have watched Supernatural, Crowley, he is a really nicely written villain. He's so charismatic and he's hilarious. And honestly, if you haven't watched Supernatural, it's a pretty long, dragged show. Storyline gets kind of stupid a lot of the times, but the villains are really nicely written, so check them out. Make your villain morally grey. I don't know why more writers are not doing that. That's why I'm mentioning it, because this should be obvious, but apparently it's not. I mean, some villains are fine not being morally grey, but moral grayness is really nice in the sense that it gives a method to the madness. It gives reasons for their actions. Sometimes them acting out of character, doing something that we don't expect them to do. I'm gonna give the example of Cardan again. So we knew Cardan to be really cruel. He did really horrible things to Jude. He glamours people for fun, But when we see him getting beaten up by Baelkin, he does not kill the human servant that's beating him, even though he could, but he doesn't. He has a no-kill rule. So that makes us see him in a different light. We start to understand where he's coming from, why he is the way that he is, and maybe he's not all that bad, even if he does do some objectively horrendous things. So adding moral grayness can do wonders for your villain. Allow me to appreciate Holly Black's genius. I wasn't kind, Jude. Not to many people. Not to you. I wasn't sure if I wanted you or if I wanted you gone from my sight so that I would stop feeling as I did, which made me even more unkind. But when you were gone, truly gone beneath the waves, I hated myself as I never have before. The three of you have one solution to every problem: murder. No key fits every lock. Cardan gives us all a stern look, holding up a long-fingered hand with my stolen ruby ring still on one finger. Someone tries to betray the High King, murder. Someone gives you a harsh look, murder. Someone disrespects you, murder. Someone ruins your laundry, murder. I find the more I listen, the more I am reminded that I have been awakened after very little sleep. I'm going to send some tea for myself and some food for Jude, who looks a bit pale. This shows us that he is not the kind of person who likes to kill, and he has seen so much death around him that he's just tired of it, and he doesn't want to be the kind of person who adds to it. So this is from when no one really takes Carden seriously as the High King because he's just a spoiled boy. What is he gonna do? And the Undersea, the Queen of the Undersea, is threatening him with the war. So he decides to meet her, even though everyone advised him against it, and they think he's gonna make a fool of himself. If it's war you want, you would be unwise to declare it on an island. Around her, waves grow more violent, their white caps of froth larger. So she is telling him, you're on an island. This is probably not the best place to declare the war, since she is the queen of the undersea and the waves are under her control. War! He peers at her as though she said something particularly puzzling, and it vexes him. Do you mean for me to really believe you want to fight? Are you challenging me to a duel? He's obviously baiting her, but I cannot imagine to what benefit, Jude thinks to herself. And if I was, she asks, what then, boy? She tries to be a condescending bitch. The smile that curves his lips is voluptuous. Beneath every bit of your sea is land, seething, volcanic land. Go against me, and I will show you what this boy will do, my lady. The absolute confidence that this man exudes with the odds against him. And if you guys don't want to spoiler like past the next 10 seconds, but then this dude literally like takes out an island, like a whole different island from beneath the sea. So you don't mess with Carden. That's such a beautifully written villain. I had to quote some of my favorite parts from the book. So this brings me to my next point, vulnerability. It is important to show your villain as still human, because it is easy to root for human beings, but it is not easy to root for just a brick wall that is just there. Like, there needs to be cracks. There needs to be something beneath the armor that we can get a glimpse at. And that is also done really nice when it comes to Carden, right? When he talks about, when he opens up to Jude, because the Fae can't lie, so he can't lie when he tells her why he is the way that he is, why he behaves the way that he does. When Jude, catches a glimpse in the orb of him running after his mother and his mother ignoring him, or when she gets to know that he was basically raised on cat milk, all of these things make our heart go out to this boy. Then we start seeing a little boy who was ignored and rejected by everyone his entire life, and this was the only way he could get any attention if he wanted. So there should be some vulnerability even with your villain for the readers to adore them, or to understand them, or to root for them. So your villain is not just some random person. They are your hero's dark mirror. They are what your hero could become if they don't rein in their instincts, and if they just give in to every impulsive thought that they have. They are basically the worst possible version of your hero, and your readers need to be able to see that. I'm going to give an example. For example, Demon Dean. So when Dean became a demon, he was basically Dean, but at his worst. He did not rein in the emotions that human Dean could. He gave into his impulse for violence and his hatred. So, and we see that, but he still had certain boundaries which reminded us that this is still Dean. He's not completely gone. It's still Dean, just a more twisted version of him. When Crowley sends him off to kill a woman because the woman's husband sold his soul so that his ex-wife would get murdered, Dean goes to get the job done, but then he sees the husband sitting outside waiting to see his ex-wife get killed. So Dean catches the husband and he talks to him, and the husband is just sadistic, he has really misogynistic views, and he's just there to enjoy the, demise of his really hot wife. So instead of killing the wife, Dean kills the husband. Now, normal human Dean would just walk away from the situation and mind his business, but Demon Dean ends up killing the husband, not the wife. So he does something that is completely different from what normal Dean would do, but also something that a demon wouldn't do. So that makes us see a part of Dean in this villain, and we are like, we don't know what to feel. It's still Dean, but it's also not. So you can actually give rise to these conflicting feelings within your readers by making the villain look somewhat like the hero, like this is just a mirror image of the hero but a twisted version. So don't overdo the edginess of your villain. Don't make them do really morally reprehensible stuff just to get like a shocking reaction out of your readers, because that will get old really fast. So your villain should also have some boundaries, some value, some absolute no-nos. Like, I may be a monster, but like I may be an animal, but I'm not a monster. That kind of thing. Because if it's just plain evil and they just do anything and they have no boundaries whatsoever, they seem lesser and lesser like people and more like just plot devices, and you don't want that for your villain. So keep that in mind. So the next time you're writing a villain, don't just think, how can I make my readers fear them? Think about, how can I make my readers fall in love with them against their better judgment? And when you do that, you'll end up writing someone that is unforgettable. So what did you think about these pointers? Do you have any pointers yourself that you think could make for a really great villain? And let me know in your comments, what are your favorite villains from what books or what TV shows, and why did you like them? So let's talk about it.